My mom begged me to come home for the holidays. I'm Claire Miller. I'm 30. And like an idiot, I actually thought this Christmas might be different. She called me in London at 3 in the morning, sobbing on FaceTime about how we never see you anymore and how the whole family needs you here. 10 hours on a cramped overnight flight, 2 layovers, a dead phone battery, and I still showed up on her doorstep in San Diego with a suitcase full of gifts for my brother's kids. I was exhausted, smelled like airplane coffee, and my back was killing me. I rang the bell, heart pounding a little, stupidly hoping she'd hug me like she used to when I was a kid. The door flew open. No hello. No, how was your flight? No hug. Just my mom staring at my suitcase and saying, like it was the most normal thing in the world, "You'll babysit your brother's kids. We're going on a family trip." My brother stepped into the doorway, sunglasses on, duffel bag over his shoulder, the kids hanging off his arms. He smirked and said, "Hey guys, don't wipe your snot on Aunt Claire. She's jet-lagged." They all laughed like I was the punchline to a joke. My parents, my brother, the kids, everybody cracking up while I stood there with airplane hair and a credit card bill full of tickets I'd paid for. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just felt something in me click off, like a switch. I smiled, set my suitcase down in the entryway, looked my mom right in the eye, and said one sentence. And that was the moment everything flipped. The laughing stopped. The color drained from their faces, and my mom kept whispering, "No, no, no way." By the time I was done, their dream vacation wasn't happening. Their house was on the line, and I was finally done being their free babysitter and personal bank. Stay with me until the end, and I'll tell you exactly how one ungrateful daughter ruined her family's perfect holiday and took her life back in the process. The funny thing is, the moment I said that one sentence, the whole room froze. But to really understand why, you have to know what those people at the door had been doing to me for years. My mom didn't just miss me when she called me in London. 2 weeks before that 3 a.m. FaceTime, she had already texted me screenshots of crazy expensive holiday prices, hinting that she and my dad could never afford a trip like that unless I helped a little, just this once. Just this once was how every single favor started. When my dad needed knee surgery, I wired money. When my brother Jason maxed out his credit cards on his big e-commerce idea, I helped him consolidate his debt. When the water heater broke and the mortgage was overdue, I sent money, and my mom posted photos the next week from a new brunch place downtown. I live in a tiny flat in London. I cook most of my meals at home. I walk to work in the rain, and somehow I was still paying for Uber Eats and streaming services in a house I didn't live in on a continent I didn't even live on anymore. The thing is, this time, before I booked my own ticket home, I paid attention. I saved every Zelle transfer, every PayPal receipt, every "Thank you, honey, we'll pay you back when things calm down." I also noticed something else. An email from the bank with my name on a mortgage I did not remember signing up for, because a few years ago they had put me down as a co-borrower just to get a better rate, and I had been covering the shortfalls ever since. So while my mom was crying on FaceTime about how the kids miss you so much, Mia keeps asking when Aunt Claire is coming, I was sitting on my bed in London, staring at my banking app, realizing that the only time my family treated me like part of the group was when a bill was due. I almost said no. I almost told her to figure it out herself. But then a different thought hit me. If they were willing to drag me halfway across the world to use me as a free babysitter and walking credit card, I was finally willing to show them what it looks like when I stop playing along. I booked my flight, but I also booked a call with a financial advisor, downloaded 3 years of statements, and had a simple document drawn up on a legal template site. So standing in that doorway in San Diego, while Jason laughed and my mom announced my babysitting schedule like it was a done deal, I wasn't just the tired, jet-lagged daughter they were used to. I rolled my suitcase inside, let the kids jump around my legs, and followed them into the kitchen where their printed itinerary was laid out on the counter like a glossy promise. Resort photos, flight times, family package, in bold letters. My mom tapped the brochure and said, "See? This is why we needed you here, honey. The kids will stay with you. We'll finally have a real vacation. You always say we should take care of ourselves." I looked at the resort name, recognized the card number on the confirmation email open on her phone, and felt that same switch in my chest flip again. They thought I had come home to be their built-in nanny and bank. I had actually flown 10 hours to do something I should have done years ago. So I smiled, asked my mom to get everyone into the dining room so we can go over a few things before you leave, opened my laptop on the table, and pulled up the stack of digital receipts that would turn their family trip into the last time any of them saw me as a free resource. My dad sat at the head of the table like it was some kind of family meeting. My mom hovered by the counter clutching that printed itinerary, and Jason was scrolling his phone, half listening, Mia and Logan spinning in circles on the tile. I slid my laptop closer, turned the screen so they could all see, and said as calmly as I could, "Before you go anywhere, we need to talk about money." Jason groaned. "Claire? Seriously? Right now?" My dad muttered something about timing under his breath. My mom gave me that wounded look and said, "Honey, we've been under so much stress. Can we please not start a fight before we even leave?" I didn't raise my voice. I just clicked to the first folder on my screen labeled Miller Household and opened a spreadsheet. Every line was dated, color-coded, and brutally clear. "Last March," I began, "you called me because the mortgage was 2 months behind. I wired $1,200. In June, Jason's business expenses maxed his card. I sent $2,500. When the water heater broke, $900. When Dad's truck needed new tires, $600. When the electric bill was past due, $300 here, $400 there. Every month for 3 years there's something." I scrolled slowly so they could see the amount stacking up, highlighting entries as I spoke. This is not counting the Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify Family Plan, your Walmart Plus, the cell phone plan, the random emergency Venmo requests that somehow always line up with Black Friday or Labor Day sales. Jason straightened in his chair, color draining from his face as he recognized his own. "I swear I'll pay you back next month." Memos in the notes column. My mom's hand flew to her mouth when she saw her text screenshotted next to deposits for gas money to visit Grandma, followed by photos of her at a new nail salon. My dad's jaw tightened when he saw the PayPal transfer labeled knee surgery copay, and then the receipt for a brand new flat screen that showed up the same week. "This isn't fair," my mom whispered. "You're making us look like bad people." I shook my head. "I'm not making you look like anything. I'm just showing you what actually happened." Then I scrolled to the bottom, to the row in bold. The total number sat there, big and undeniable. "In the last 36 months, I said quietly, I have sent this house just over $60,000. The room went dead silent. Jason blinked hard. My dad stared at the wall. My mom kept whispering, "No, that can't be right. That can't be right." Like if she said it enough, the math would change. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin stack of printed pages, slid them onto the table next to the itinerary for their dream resort. "This," I said, "is a simple agreement. It's not a lawsuit. It's not me taking you to court. It's just a record that all of you acknowledge you owe me this money and will start paying it back. Even if it's slowly. $50 a month, $100, whatever." I had it drafted using a legal template. My advisor looked it over. "All it says is that this," I tapped the 60,000 on the screen, "was not a gift." My dad finally snapped out of his shock. "We are family," he barked. "You don't put family in debt like that." "What? Are you going to sue your own parents?" I met his eyes. Family doesn't hide a mortgage in their daughter's name and call her when the payment's late. Family doesn't spend her money on vacations and brunch, and then tell everyone she abandoned them. My mom flinched like I'd slapped her. Jason grabbed the pages, skimmed the first paragraph, and his voice cracked. This is insane. I can't pay this back. None of us can. I leaned back in my chair. I know. And I'm not expecting you to. Not all at once. But I am done living in a world where you pretend you're victims and I'm some selfish career girl overseas. If you ever tell a neighbor or a cousin or Facebook that I left you with nothing, I will show them these numbers. I will show them every transfer, every bill I covered, every time you chose Starbucks over the electricity bill because you knew I'd bail you out. My mom shook her head over and over, whispering, No, no, no way. You wouldn't do that, Claire. You wouldn't humiliate your own family. I shrugged. I'm not planning to, as long as you stop lying. Then I clicked to another tab, the one with their resort reservation confirmation. The familiar logo filled the screen, along with their names, dates, and a little note at the bottom with the last 4 digits of the card on file. My card. And about that family trip you're so excited about, I added, my voice still calm. You might want to sit down for this part. My dad frowned. What are you talking about? I pointed to the status line under the reservation number. Canceled. 3 days ago, I called the resort and the airline, I said. Since the bookings were made with my card and my account, I had every right. The package has been refunded. The flight credits have been moved. So when I told you at the door that I wasn't babysitting while you went on vacation, I closed the laptop halfway, just enough to see all their faces at once. What I meant was, there is no vacation anymore. Not without me. Not without my money. Not ever again on my dime. My dad lurched up from his chair when he saw the word canceled, like he could intimidate the screen into changing. You had no right, he snapped. Those are our tickets. I didn't even flinch. They were bought with my card, from my account, with my money, I said. The right was all mine. He opened his mouth to argue, but I was already clicking to the next window. And that brings me to the house we're sitting in right now. On the screen was an email from the bank with both our names on it. Gary Miller and Claire Miller, co-borrowers. My dad stared at it, his face draining of color. My mom whispered, Claire, please, not this. We told you it was just paperwork. I swallowed the familiar ache in my throat. You told me it was a formality, I said. You told me it wouldn't affect me. But I've been the one covering short payments on this mortgage for years. Every time you forgot a bill, it hit my credit too. I clicked a button and a small video window popped up in the corner of the screen. My financial advisor's face appeared, framed by a home office in London. We had spoken before I ever got on the plane. Hi, Claire, she said. Is now still a good time? I turned the laptop slightly so my parents could see. Perfect, I said. You remember my family situation. My dad hissed. Who is this? I answered without looking at him. This is the person who helped me understand exactly what being a co-borrower on your mortgage means, and what my options are now that I'm done bailing you out. The advisor introduced herself politely, then got straight to the point. In calm, measured language, she explained that as a co-borrower, my credit was tied to this house, that missed payments and constant shortfalls were hurting me, and that I had the right to go to the bank and request to be removed from the loan. In practice, she continued, that means the lender would require the remaining borrower or borrowers to qualify on their own. They might have to refinance, or in some cases, if they cannot meet the requirements, the property may need to be sold to satisfy the debt. My mom shook her head. You can't do that, she said, her voice trembling. We can't afford to move. We can't afford a higher payment. The advisor's voice stayed gentle. That is between you and the lender, ma'am. What I can say is Claire is not obligated to keep her name on a loan that she is not truly benefiting from, especially when she is the one making up the difference. I thanked her and ended the call, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. The room felt smaller, like the walls were inching inward. My dad rounded on me. You're going to make your own parents homeless over some numbers on a screen? I looked him straight in the eye. No, I am going to stop letting you gamble with my future while you act like I owe you my entire life. If you can afford resorts and plane tickets when you think I'll be here to babysit, you can afford to sit down with a bank and figure out how to pay for your own house. I reached into my bag again and pulled out a folded letter. This is my formal notice that I'll be stopping all automatic payments related to this property, I said. The bank will contact you directly from now on. I'm also closing the joint checking account Mom convinced me to open, just in case there's an emergency. I air quoted the words without meaning to. My mom made a choked sound. But that's where the grocery money comes from, she said. That's where we pay utilities. How are we supposed to manage all this? I took a breath, steady and slow. The same way every other adult in this country does, I replied. With your own income, with your own budgeting, with your own consequences when you overspend. I opened another tab showing the monthly auto drafts I had set up over the years. Mortgage supplement, power, internet, streaming bundles, grocery deliveries, car payment top-ups. All of them had my name next to the word payer. As of today, I said, my cursor hovering over the cancel button for each one. These stop. You will get your own bills, in your own names. If they're late, that's between you and the companies, not me and my credit score. Jason finally spoke up, panic rising in his voice. Claire, you can't just pull everything away at once. At least give us time. I'm looking into more hours. I'll sign up for more delivery shifts, I swear. Just don't screw us like this. I turned to him. You're 34 years old, I said. You have 2 kids. You should have been doing that years ago without me dangling in the background as a safety net. He stared at the table, jaw clenched. For a second, I almost softened. Almost slipped back into the role they had written for me. The fixer, the quiet helper, the girl who would cry in the shower and then open her banking app and make it all go away. But then I remembered the way they had laughed at the door, the way my mom had said, "You'll babysit," like it was a line item on their to-do list, and that softer part of me shut right back down. I hit cancel on the auto pays, one by one. Confirmation emails pinged my phone. My mom's breathing got faster. My dad sank back into his chair, staring at nothing. This is cruel, he muttered. You're punishing us. I shook my head. No, I'm finally stepping out of a role you all wrote without asking me, and I'm giving you the chance to be honest about what you can actually afford without hiding behind my bank account. I closed the laptop and stood up, my legs shaky but steady enough. After this, I said, if you decide to tell anyone that I abandoned you, just remember I have every receipt, every bill, every transfer. I'm done being the villain in the story you tell other people to make yourselves feel better. I picked up my suitcase and added quietly, you wanted a real vacation. Maybe this is it. A vacation from pretending I'm your built-in solution to every bad decision. Let's see how you handle life without that. My dad finally snapped when he saw me rolling my suitcase toward the hallway. He jumped up so fast his chair scraped the tile. If you're walking out after this little show, don't bother coming back, he barked. You're not welcome in this house if you're going to hold money over our heads. My mom reached for my arm. Gary, stop. She just needs to calm down. We can talk about this, she said, but she didn't actually move to stand between us. Jason stared at the floor, silent. I paused in the doorway, hand on the handle, every muscle in my body shaking. A part of me wanted to drop everything, apologize, say I'd figure something out like I always did. Instead, I straightened up and said, "You're the one who decided my value here was measured in what I pay for. If I'm not welcome without my credit card, then I was never really welcome at all." My dad jabbed a finger toward the door. "Get out," he said, "and don't come crying to us when London chews you up and spits you out." I almost laughed at that. London wasn't the city that had been eating me alive. This kitchen was. I stepped outside, the California sun hitting my face, and pulled the door shut behind me. No one followed. No one called my name. The only sound was Mia and Logan arguing about a cartoon from the living room, blissfully unaware that their vacation had just evaporated. I ordered an Uber and dragged my suitcase to the curb, feeling more homeless than I actually was. The driver loaded my bag into the trunk and asked, "Where to?" I took a breath and gave him the address I had never given my parents. A high-rise in downtown San Diego, 15 minutes from their quiet little street, but a completely different world. 6 months before, after one too many midnight money transfers and guilt trips, I had used my savings and my steady UX salary to put a down payment on a tiny one-bedroom condo. I told my family I was just thinking about coming back to the States someday, but I had already signed the papers. The plan was to move in slowly, quietly, once I figured out how to disentangle myself from their finances without blowing everything up. Tonight proved there was no gentle way to do it. When the Uber pulled up in front of the glass building, it felt surreal. I swiped my key fob, wheeled my suitcase through the lobby I'd only seen twice, and rode the elevator up to the 8th floor. The condo smelled like fresh paint and new carpet, not like anyone's cooking or stress or desperation. Just empty. Mine. I dropped my suitcase in the middle of the living room and stood by the window, looking out over the city lights. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with, "Can you send something until Friday?" Or, "The card got declined. Can you fix it?" I opened my banking app and went through the last few things I still paid for that weren't in my name. The family Disney Plus? Canceled. The Hulu bundle? Canceled. The Spotify family account? The shared cloud storage? The random Apple charges for games the kids downloaded? Canceled, canceled, canceled. Each confirmation email felt like cutting a string that had been wrapped around my ribs for a decade. I brewed myself a cup of cheap grocery store coffee in my brand new, barely stocked kitchen and sat cross-legged on the floor because I didn't even have a couch yet. In the quiet, without my mom's constant sighing or my dad's TV blaring, the doubts rushed in. What if I'd gone too far? What if they really couldn't keep the lights on without me? What if I had just turned into the selfish, ungrateful daughter my dad always warned me not to be? Then I remembered how my mom had opened the door like I was a maid showing up for a shift. I remembered Jason joking about the kids wiping their snot on me while they all laughed, assuming I'd just slide into place and make their plans possible. And underneath the fear and the guilt, something else settled in my chest for the first time in years. A thin, quiet layer of peace. They were going to feel the impact of my absence, no doubt. The bills would come, the late fees would stack, and the life they'd built on top of my invisible paycheck would start to wobble. But tonight, in this tiny, echoing condo, there was no one to save but me. I took a sip of coffee, opened my laptop again, and watched as the new emails started to roll in from the bank, the utility companies, the streaming services, all of them confirming what I already knew. For the first time, my family was on their own. The first sign that my decisions were actually hitting them didn't come from a phone call or a text. It came from Facebook. About a week after I moved into the condo, my friend Emma sent me a screenshot with a simple message. Have you seen this? It was my dad's profile, his name right there above a long, dramatic status about how some kids forget who raised them the second they get a fancy job overseas, and how he and my mom were left with nothing right before Christmas. He never used my name, but he did not have to. Our daughter flew in from London and decided money was more important than blood. He had written, "Pray for us." Underneath were comments from people who had known me since I was in braces. "So sorry, Gary, that is awful. Kids these days do not understand family. You gave her everything, and this is how she repays you." One woman added, "If she will not help, maybe set up a GoFundMe, we will share it." My stomach twisted like I had swallowed ice. He was doing exactly what I had warned him not to do, turning himself into the helpless victim and me into the cold-hearted villain, rewriting the entire story for an audience that had no idea how many times I had paid their bills in silence. For a minute, I paced my tiny living room, phone in my hand, fingers hovering over the call button. I almost drove back to that house, almost begged him to take it down, almost offered to reinstate one of the payments just to make the humiliation stop. The old version of me, the one trained to fix everything, was clawing at the inside of my chest. Then I pictured the spreadsheet on my laptop. I pictured the email tying my name to their mortgage, the stacks of transfers, the way my mom had looked past my face and straight at my suitcase when she opened the door, like I was a delivery driver dropping off a package. That image snapped me back. Instead of calling my dad, I opened my email and pulled up the thread with my financial advisor. I told her about the post, about how my family had been using my money for years while claiming they were barely getting by. And I asked one simple question. Was there anything else I needed to do to protect myself now that I had cut them off? She responded with a calm, detailed reply about documenting everything, saving copies of every transfer and bill, and making sure the bank and any relevant agencies had the full picture of who had actually been paying what. She mentioned that in situations like mine, where one person is unofficially propping up a household that is also receiving certain benefits or claiming hardship, it can be appropriate to ask for things to be reviewed, just to make sure everything is above board. I did not need a step-by-step manual. I just needed to know I was not crazy for thinking something was off. Over the next few weeks, while my dad kept posting vague complaints about ungrateful kids and this generation, envelopes started showing up at the house on their quiet cul-de-sac. I did not see them myself, but my mom's frantic texts told me enough. "Did you talk to the bank?" She wrote one morning. "We got a letter about reassessing the loan. They want updated information." Another day, early on a Monday, came a barrage of messages. "There is something from the IRS. I am freaking out. I thought you said everything was fine. Why are they asking questions?" I had never said everything was fine. I had said I was done smoothing things over in the dark. The bank wanted updated documents for the mortgage. The utility companies wanted full payment instead of the partial ones I had been slipping in at the last second, like some invisible janitor cleaning up a mess no one else acknowledged. The comfortable fog they had been living in was thinning, and there was nothing left to hide behind except the reality of what they could actually afford. Jason finally texted asking to meet at a coffee shop near my building. When he walked in, he looked smaller without the sarcasm to puff him up. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble he had clearly not had time to shave, a delivery bag slung over his shoulder. He dropped into the chair across from me and got straight to it. "Dad needs to shut up online," he said, rubbing his face. "Those posts are making everything worse. He is embarrassing himself. And Mom, and honestly me too. And I know you are mad, but some of this, the letters, the calls, you did something, right?" I took a slow sip of coffee, letting him sit in the discomfort for a second before I answered. "What I did was stop pretending we were all being honest," I said. "I talked to professionals. I made sure my name would not go down with a ship I was not steering. If that means some systems are finally noticing where the money has actually been coming from, that is not my fault." He stared at the table, then admitted he had signed up for more shifts, sold some of his old tech gear, moved his kids into a smaller room so he could take on a roommate and cut rent. "It sucks," he said, voice low. "But for the first time, I am actually seeing what stuff costs. Like, really seeing it. Groceries, gas, daycare. I did not get it before. I just knew if it got bad enough, someone would text you." Meanwhile, my mom was selling designer bags and home decor she had bragged about on social media, listing them on Marketplace with captions like "barely used," when I knew exactly how often she had carried them to brunch. The new television my dad bought after his surgery, the one he justified as recovery entertainment, disappeared from the living room in my cousin's holiday photos, replaced by an old boxy set from the garage. Their truck was finally repossessed one gray morning after too many missed payments, the kind of scene they used to cluck their tongues at when it happened at a neighbor's house. Now it was their driveway, their sidewalk, their embarrassment as the tow truck hauled away a symbol of a lifestyle they could no longer fake. Through all of it, my dad kept my number unblocked, but he never once called to apologize or tell the truth. He just kept throwing little grenades online, vague posts about betrayal and ingratitude, hoping someone would pick them up and carry them to me, so I would feel guilty enough to crawl back. He told anyone who would listen that his daughter had abandoned him for money and status, conveniently leaving out that most of the money had been flowing in the opposite direction for years. I did not respond publicly, did not jump into the comments to defend myself, did not write my own dramatic post with screenshots attached, even though the petty part of me desperately wanted to. I did not have to. I had my receipts. I had my advisor. I had my own credit finally starting to disentangle from theirs. And more importantly, I had distance. Every time I saw someone share his story about the cold daughter in London, or heard through the grapevine that he was holding court at the bar about what a disappointment I was, all I could think was that if they knew the real math, if they saw even one page of that spreadsheet, they would not be asking why I walked away. They would be asking how I managed to stay as long as I did. By the time Christmas rolled around again, the Miller house had turned into a different universe, and so had mine. I found out the pieces in strange little ways. A tagged photo of my mom at a discount store instead of her usual boutique. A grainy picture of Jason's kids in a small apartment instead of my parents' backyard. Comments from mutual friends asking if everything was okay. I didn't reach out. I focused on my job in San Diego, on building my portfolio, on decorating my condo one paycheck at a time. I bought a secondhand couch, a fake tree for the corner, and strung up cheap fairy lights that made the place look warmer than it had any right to feel. Then, one rainy Tuesday in December, someone knocked on my door. When I checked the peephole, my stomach dropped. It was my mom. She looked smaller somehow. No full face of makeup, no carefully styled hair, just a tired woman clutching a reusable grocery bag to her chest like a shield. I let her in, heart pounding. She stood in the middle of my little living room and turned in a slow circle, taking in the couch, the view, the tiny Christmas tree with 3 mismatched ornaments. "I didn't know it looked like this," she said softly. "I always pictured you in something bigger, fancier." I shrugged. "This is what I can afford, without paying for 2 households." She winced like the words physically hurt. Then she opened the bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. Not for 60,000, not even close. But it was something. "It's from selling things," she said quickly, eyes shiny. "Bags, some jewelry, that coffee table you hated. And I've been picking up extra shifts at the office. It's not much, but it's a start." I told Jason we can't pretend it was all a misunderstanding anymore. For a second, I just stared at the check. It wasn't about the amount. It was about my mother, who had spent years acting like my money grew on trees, standing in my small, very human-sized living room and admitting, out loud, that she'd treated me like an ATM. She sat down on the edge of the couch and started crying. Not the manipulative, loud sobbing from the 3 a.m. FaceTime call. Quiet, broken little sounds. "Your father still says you betrayed us," she said. "He tells everyone you turned on your family because you think you're better than us. But I can't keep saying it. Not after seeing those papers. Not after the bank letters. We did use you. I did." I sat next to her, leaving space between us. "I'm not asking you to hate him," I said. "I'm asking you to stop letting him rewrite what happened just so he doesn't have to feel guilty." She nodded, wiping her face. "Jason's working," she added. "Like, really working. Driving late nights, doing warehouse shifts. He moved into a smaller place. The kids share a room now, but at least it's a place he pays for himself. He wanted me to tell you, thank you for the spreadsheet." I actually laughed at that, a short, surprised sound. "I didn't make that for him," I said. "I made it for me." She looked at me carefully. "Do you think someday we could have a Christmas where you come over and it's just dinner? No money talk, no hidden bills. Just us?" My throat tightened. "Maybe," I said. "But that only happens if everyone in that house understands I am not their safety net anymore. If I come, it's because I want to, not because there's a payment due." She nodded again, stood up, and hugged me. A real hug this time, the kind I'd been chasing for years. When she left, I slipped the check into a drawer. I didn't cash it right away. I just needed to know that, for once, the flow of money was pointed in the other direction. As for my dad, the last thing I saw from him was another vague post about family turning their backs. I muted him, then finally blocked his profile and his number. It felt less like slamming a door and more like closing a wound that refused to heal. That Christmas Eve, I sat alone on my couch, tree lights blinking, a cheap mug of hot chocolate in my hands, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to be anywhere else. No flights, no babysitting schedule, no emergency transfers. Just quiet. Just mine. Here's what I learned. Family doesn't stop being family just because you say no. The people who truly love you will eventually adjust to your boundaries. The ones who were only there for what you could provide will call you selfish the moment you stop bleeding for them. It hurts. It's lonely. But sometimes distance is the only way to stop drowning in someone else's bad decisions. So let me ask you this. If the people draining your bank account and your sanity share your last name, would you keep paying the price just to be called loyal? Or would you walk away like I did and finally give yourself permission to be your own family first?